and greetings to all of you. Thank you for joining us. We are doing our wellness workshop for March, and welcome to March, right? We're just starting in. And I am Judy Fredericks. I'm the wellness liaison, and we come to you every month, giving you a little different aspect of wellness and some tips, and hopefully that you can also join us with some tips of your own. Now, as we usually start out, we want to be able to do some grounding exercise. So if you wouldn't mind putting down what you're working on, including your phone, feet on the ground, seated back into your chair, shoulders are softened or rolled back so they're not up around your ears, hands in your lap. And just for a moment, what I'd like you to do is take that calming hold that we do each time, your hand over your heart. Take those 3 deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. If you're able to have an outdoor view or take a look at the screen, either way, be able to calm your brain with that green gray of the outdoors and take those deep breaths. The more often you do that, you begin to create a practice where your brain can go quicker and quicker to that neural pathway and be able to calm that cortisol. So that's a really important thing. If you're feeling higher stress, to be able to take the right hand under that left arm, press against the ribs, hand up over the shoulder into that muscle group that you just would really love to have somebody massage, right? Just kind of press those spots, and that is a neural pathway that you're completing. And again, those 3 deep breaths. And once you release that, and maybe just hand over your heart, I'd like you just to listen to these words of kindness. Just settle in, be comfortable, close your eyes or look down, have your gaze down, and think of a person who's been kind to you. Could be a grandparent, a teacher, parent, a friend, even a beloved pet. Allow yourself to feel this warmth, this kindness, and imagine this person or being is gazing at you with understanding, kindness, and compassion. Imagine this person is wishing you well, sending you a blessing, possibly saying these words: may you be safe and protected. May you be healthy. May you be held in kindness and compassion. Take that another deep breath and let's stretch. Put in front of yourself, hands over your head, grab your wrist, pull to the opposite side, grab your other wrist and pull. Put your hands behind your back so you can stretch and open up that chest. Take a breath and just shake it out. All right, I want to go ahead and get ourselves started. So when we come to you each month, we do a little bit of a different take on these talks. And at any time you have some suggestions for them, please go ahead and email me or email the Center for Clinical Wellness so we can bring you something new and fresh each time. So this time we're doing personal psychosocial needs. We'll do that today and again next Wednesday at 6 p.m. next Wednesday. Right? There is somebody that's still not muted, so if you wouldn't mind going ahead and doing that, thank you. So what we want to take a look at is kind of go back to that pyramid and take a look at some of the things that are under those headings, because this is talking about your psychosocial needs. I want to talk about the challenges to meet those needs when you're stressed, because it's easy to do it when you're not stressed, and some strategies about being consistent and being able to tolerate some of the things that kind of challenge you, which will actually help you increase your well-being. So that level of tolerance is very important. And then name 2 pathways that would help you with your support. We always talk about our definitions before we get started. So just relating to that interrelationship of social factors and individual thoughts and behaviors. So how that relationship works between the outside and the inside. So it's on social factors and how they influence your mind or your behavior. The stressors are the life situations that create an unusual or an intense level of stress. And we've certainly had that, even as COVID is becoming less of a high risk kind of situation, although it is out there, it is pervasive, but I think people are less stressed about it, but still wary of it. And there is a perceived threat. So you want to think about what these stressors do to yourself. because your goal is to be in a state of good mental, physical, and emotional health. And that's not a stagnant thing. That is something that is very active, that you want to be able to always be balancing those things, always being looking at what you could do differently to get to that state. And it's a maintaining kind of thing. It's not a one-time thing. There could be family problems, depression, anxiety, violence, any of those kind of things can create those stressors in relationships, death of a friend or a family, prolonged illness, unwanted change of a residence, even any of the natural catastrophes that are happening, or highly competitive school or work situations. So that I think you need to kind of bring into play that does play an effect on that. I'm going to check the chat while I'm going to ask you to go ahead to menti.com, use the code or the QR code that's there that you can scan and be able to go in and talk about what types of psychosocial stressors are in your life. You go ahead and go to that site. And what I'll do is I'll leave this page and go to Mentimeter in just a moment. Okay. All right, so if any of you are on the phone, it's www.menti.com. The code is 54940864. If you're watching, you can use your phone and take a photo, get the QR code that way. All right. So we're just gonna change this for a moment.
Hi, could you give examples of the psychosocial, like, do you mean
I
like
really gotta
work,
figure out this
school?
ability to mute here. All right. All right, so let's take a look and see what you have. And as you're typing things in, the larger font is the things that a lot of people are putting in there. So the bigger the font, the larger, more people are voting for it. Thank you for participating. That is great. So the biggest thing that can be a stress, whether it's a good or a bad stress, right? There can be good and bad, is family. Work is next. Work could be your career, or work could be the pathway to your career. And then finances, health. Absolutely. So those are really the core things. And a lot of these things are kind of like subsets to them. As we get a little bit older and we get into that generation that we are caring for children and for our parents, we do have the risks of challenging working with our elderly parents and making sure they're safe, the death of our parents. And so all of those weigh very heavily on you while you're also juggling all these other things. So that idea about actively balancing is so important, that you never feel like, yeah, I got it. Or if I only could get there, I'd be great. It's always taking one step at a time. And again, checking in to make sure that you're balancing that. All right, so I'm going to go back to our talk. And thank you for everybody that participated. And what we'll do is we'll come back to do the second question in just a moment. All right. So the essential principles in psychosocial care is having that sense of safety, whether it's where you live, where you work, how you travel. And that's really been suspect lately. The ability to calm, having some efficacy around self and the community that you're in, the feeling of social connectedness, and the feeling of hope. There's a good article that was done in, I think, 2006 that was pretty well researched, and there's a lot of information about it, a lot of people have used it since then. And Dr. Hopful actually worked at Rush. So it's kind of a nice little connection that we have. What you want to think about is some of the things that challenge those psychosocial needs and just the feeling overwhelming of being anxious. And that's that fight, flight, freeze, that cortisol level, not feeling that something's okay. And you have that sense of anxiety. You can feel it in your heart, you can feel it in your breathing, maybe in your gut, maybe in your shoulders. If you have some concerns about any kind of substance use, if there's caregiving issues like we talked about before with parents or your children, family concerns, and then the levels of stress at home, work, and school that will always be there and how you manage those. But they all challenge you to do that. And so you want to be able to acknowledge that they're there, because that's the important thing, is that you know they're there and you recognize that it does have that. And that reptilian center is going to be the one that's going to react. If you can manage each thing as it comes up, it'll calm and you can go about your day till the next time it goes up. Recently, things have been so anxiety producing, our cortisol has been so high that it does affect ourselves. It affects our immunity, it affects our inflammation, it affects the way we think, how we focus, how we process. And so you need to really give yourself that ability to recognize, are any of these challenges there in my life, and which one can I take a look at this point based in reality and see what I could do different about it, even just one step, because that chronic uncertainty is just so exhausting to us. And so we do have to consider how we can manage all the things that are happening. The things that are roadblocks to calming, we think about, oh, I could manage this, but the things that kind of creep in that are roadblocks to this are things as simple as not sleeping much. So if you think about your last 5 nights, have you been able to get more than 5 hours of sleep? What conflicts are there in your life, or things that you're even anticipating to be a conflict? Even if you anticipate it and it's not a true conflict, you still get that same reaction. Your brain still reacts and tries to fix, even if you're not in the actual conflict itself. And trying to use curiosity instead of thinking of it as a battle is just one way, just one little tip about thinking about a calming response to that. If you feel that you've been increasing your isolation or your anxiety is going up, again, to think about in the moment, what is truly happening? Is this something that you're feeling more comfortable being isolated, and that you do want to be able to have some coaching to be able to look at what that is for you and what's that producing for you? There will be stress in school and work relationships, just like in a family, especially a big family with one bathroom, you think about it, there'll always be that stress. The other thing is just not acknowledging your successes. I don't think we do a really good job of thinking about what we take on and how successful we are. Like at the end of a day, do you actually think about your day and give yourself kind of kudos about something that went well? You might have got a compliment. You might have done a procedure very well. You might have did very well on a paper, a presentation, anything you need to do clinically. And each time you do it, you think about yourself as an experienced novice. You're not new at this. You have information that brought you to this moment. So that's your experience, but it's the first time you're doing this exact thing. So give yourself that ability, that grace to be that experienced novice, and cheer on your successes, because even just your own self-talk is going to be the most important thing you can do to get you to that next success. I want you to look at your boundaries, kind of think about that. If you don't turn off school or work, even social media, if you have a hard time setting your phone down, like for this hour, could you actually leave your phone to the side and not look at it for an hour and not feel panicked? I know some of you may have had the experience where you've left your phone at home. And how did you do? Maybe the first 2 hours was pretty much a panic because you had to think about what your schedule was and what was on your phone that you needed. But then you figured out, well, I don't have my phone, so I can't do it. And you were able to survive the day. So you think about those things, and not truly as a roadblock. It's just something that you've become very obsessed with, and that maybe you can back away from it. So give yourself like an hour away from the phone. That might be a good thing. And then if you do have any issues about substance use or a lot of negative scanning, always thinking about the worst thing that could happen, instead of kind of tempering that with more positive thoughts. If you do that, maybe the tip for you would be to take a look at 3 good things. We've talked about it before, that every evening you take a look at 3 good things that happened to you. Your socks matched. You parked in a decent parking space. You weren't up on the roof in the rain. Like we said earlier, somebody gave you a compliment or you did well with something, but you actually write it down because it makes a difference in your brain when it sees it on paper versus when you just think about it and say, oh yeah, that was good, to actually write it down. And then you can actually go back and look, which is kind of nice having that kind of track. And so you could use your notes, you could use something on your phone as a kind of a notes page or something like that to keep track of it. But just kind of think about the things that you can do to help you. So now we want to look at what it takes for the quest for wellness in psychosocial care. And there are actually 5 things that you need. And so we're going to go through the 5. And when you feel positive about these things, your self-concept, your identity, your body image, your role performance, your self-esteem can really be strong. So these things are good to be able to kind of go through and be aware and be able to communicate what you need. So for the first thing, I want, and also I do want you to use the chat here or to unmute with each one of these to tell me what Rush has as a resource that you found helpful to do any of these 5 things. So to be that feeling of being heard, it really does create a sense of trust and a level of certainty. You feel acknowledged for offering ideas or giving some input. And so some of the things that it takes to do that is the fact that being on the front line with patients, having student experience, you feel that those things are understood by leadership, that they do understand your lived experience. And that's an important thing. Are there listening sessions available where you can go? Have you been to Student Senate? Have you gone to any of the things your department offers about listening sessions? And I think that's a really important thing. Any opportunities you have to give input, please do it. Don't think, oh, they'll never read it. Everybody reads that stuff. It's so important. And changes happen because more and more people give the same type of feedback. And so that's great. And ever so often we get a very unique piece of feedback. You think, whoa, why didn't we think of this before? And want to make a change based on it. So please don't hesitate to do that. And then to try to develop conflict resolution skills. If you feel that conflict is one of the big things in your life that's kind of blocking you from moving forward or thinking about other things, there are a lot of abilities to work on conflict resolution. And the very first one I always think about is use curiosity, because a lot of times conflict happens because we don't know the whole story on either side. And so if you come with that feeling of curiosity and not thinking you're coming as a battle, that may actually help shift things enough to kind of change that feeling of conflict. All right, how about protecting, feeling protected? If you feel protected, you can focus on work and learning, right? Because think about the hierarchy of needs. It builds trust and allows you to quiet your mind, because your mind's not always sending out the radar of, am I safe? Am I safe? And safety can be all kinds of things. But we want to know that Rush as a system is providing the science whenever things are happening and consistently giving you information, even the risks of COVID, even minimize bringing things home to your family, access to testing, and communicating security risk. I think Russ does a good job of putting in communications. If you're reading your email, you're getting up to the minute reports when any safety issue goes on the campuses. And so hopefully you're utilizing those tools to keep yourself up to date so you're able to feel protected. Right. Anybody else have any thoughts about that, or any things that may also be happening at the college level in your department that has to do with the protect me piece? And I'm going to quickly check the chat. Right. And thank you for the person who gave out the code. We'll go back to that again. All right, how about prepare me? We want to have a feeling of confidence, right? So if you're feeling prepared, that allows you to do that. And you also want to be in a good position to adapt quickly. So if something changes, you can flex to that. And so that being prepared, that sense of being prepared is really important because that acknowledges what's going on. It allows you to embrace connections and interdependence over self-reliance and independence. These days, we really have to do things that are connected and interdependent. So for those of you who struggle working in a group, this truly is part of the prepare me, because you're going to get so much good information from teams that you didn't have on your own. And so that's kind of a nice thing. And so then if this is something that challenges you, you want to be able to access support or coaching when you're faced with difficult decisions so that you are prepared. And that's an important thing. But I do think that the college does a great job of preparing you in the high quality education, in the different levels of training and clinical spaces. So those are all good things. What about support me? Support is very different depending on who you are, right? You decide to define it differently, but it does create a wellness pattern that is part of your day, not an add-on, not a substitute. We want wellness to be part of your day. And so feeling supported does increase your ability to be grateful, to be empathetic, to acknowledge the human limits. And that goes for the college and the university itself, the Rush system, that they acknowledge human limits, that you feel that you are able to refocus the value from rewarding long overworked type workers to focus on balance. How important that is, that you come in fresh, that you take breaks, that you're able to do things that are going to help you be your best self. You want to encourage boundaries, to take a look at who you are and how you define yourself in your personal, family, school life. And then that you do have access to food and hydration. And that's important. Even if you're a student in need, that you know that if you were connected to us last month, that our talk had to do with nutrition. And we did talk about food pantries and gardens and those kind of things in the area. And that's on our website as a recording. So you can always go back and take a look at that. And then for those of you who would like to be someone who reaches out to others that are struggling a little bit with not feeling supported, that maybe thinking about taking mental health first aid might be a good thing, and maybe even making it a part of the curriculum might be a good thing. All right, and then we're going to get to care for me. That really rounds out wellness. Stay grounded with your social connections. You want to be able to access spiritual support. And if you've never thought about it, our chaplain group is here. You have your own spiritual leaders in your community. And then there's also reflective space here at Rush. And so if you've not been to the newly positioned chapel and over in the tower, or some of the open spaces in the tower hallways that allow some quiet space, some of the wellness meditation rooms, it's really important that you kind of seek that out so that you know where they are when you need them. The other thing is to be able to feel that there is emotional support, especially when there's exhaustion involved. And when you're psychologically, physically exhausted, you want to make sure that you've got that support and know who that is. Right? Yes, the chapel moved over to the tower. So the old chapel that used to be down on the first floor is now over on 4 Tower. And it's truly not a chapel in the sense of religious. It's a non-religious space, but it's definitely a meditative space and very calm. So it is kind of a nice space to be able to go to. All right. So when I mentioned before about doing things for yourself at the very beginning, about how often we do things and how we lay down those neural pathways, that we have to actually practice being kind to ourselves, we have to practice calming ourselves. It really does allow you to build tolerance for what's going on around you, kind of that swirling around you. And each time you acknowledge challenges, it lays down that same neural pathway so you can access it quicker and quicker each time you feel stressed. So think about what works for you. Maybe one of the things on this list might work for you, but a quick walk, just even 5 minutes, can release endorphins, and that's definitely good to kind of shift things. The green-gray color that we talked about nature, that's important. Water or tea, check in on your senses. There's actually papers written on chewing gum and stress and how that can help slow down your stress. You might start chewing really aggressively and then you find yourself able to kind of calm that down. anything you can do to visually calm. So anything you have about guided imagery, breathing, calm pictures, music is wonderful. Hopefully you have some nice music on your computer that you can click on when you need to calm, not just your regular everyday, like get going kind of thing, but just something that's kind of going to bring you down a little bit. The last thing I just want to be able to kind of remind you about writing things down. It really does make a difference. Write down your problem list. Write down your 3 good things. Write gratitude. Write your thank you notes. It just really does different things in your brain. And there's some really great MRIs that show what happens, especially around gratitude. It's incredible. So yes, your mom was right. Write those thank you notes. All of these things come together, and you do have to think about your whole self for wellness. And you do want to think about how you're able to calm your body. And the first thing is the 3 deep breaths. Even if you're going into a patient room, as you're doing hand hygiene, when you're doing that, to take those 3 deep breaths at that moment and kind of make that your ritual. Like you're going into someone's beloved. You're going to care for them. They're afraid. They don't know what's going on. You might be a little nervous too. As a new practitioner,
That's
but
good.
as you do
Let
the
me
hand
see.
hygiene,
I am in
it's
a
just a really nice
meeting,
thing to
but
be able to
after
get into
this
that
meeting,
system,
I should be heading that way. Within the next half an hour, I'll be heading
right?
that
And we
way.
do need somebody again to mute. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And be able to
Oh,
rest your mind
bye-bye.
regularly. And that has to do with brain breaks. The research on brain breaks is about if you're doing high level complex work, that you want to take a brain break every 17 minutes for 3 minutes, that you're actually just standing up, taking a breath, doing something different to come back. For most of us, for more moderate level brain work, that maybe we want to get up every 90 minutes, but still it only takes about 3 minutes to access that neural pathway. And each time you do it, like I said before, it becomes easier and faster. And so that's a really important thing. Some of the things you can do is just meditation, affirmations, 5 minutes, the beginning of your day. Don't grab your phone the first thing. Be able to just breathe. Think about what your day will be like. Think about anything pleasant that you've got that you're looking forward to. Even just stretching before you get going with your day is a really good thing that you can do. For your spirit, there's opportunities that you have out there that you can live with gratitude. You can think about what you're thankful for, and that does kind of shift your brain, and it does allow you to think about things. Any of the meditations that you do, it really comes down to breathing, being still, noticing, even if you're noticing a distraction, and then you bring yourself back to the breathing. If you use the Calm app, you're listening to someone talking you through it, or you're listening to some calm music and doing that breathing. But it's just that really sitting still, being aware of where your body is, your breathing, noticing things that are distracting you and bringing that back. And so you can start even with just 5 minutes to get going on meditation and just build that up. And that's just a really nice thing. And you actually feel good about it. When you build these things, it all leads to resilience, and resilience does good things for you. It has really good outcomes. And so all of those things then help you help others, which actually does restore your well-being. And so that's a good thing. All right, so let's get to some of the things that maybe is not so helpful. So a lot of times we think about self-care. And if you had to make a list of things that you want to do for self-care, it would look like a task list, wouldn't it? But what about self-kindness, right? How could you be kind to yourself? How could you think about when somebody gives you a compliment, you don't immediately go to, oh, well, anybody would have done that. Being kind would be accepting that compliment, because when you accept the compliment and you say, thank you for noticing, thank you for mentioning it, thank you for saying something, you also give them back an endorphin release about feeling kind toward you. And so there's some really good stuff that happens with self-kindness. But you might understand all that we've talked about, but you're exhausted, right? You're physically, emotionally, spiritually exhausted. And so that's an important thing to recognize, that self-kindness is not a luxury, but it's really a necessity. And so there's a comment about what you think you are not is what holds you back. And that's from Shift Your Brilliance. So what you think you are not. So if you're not being kind to yourself, what you think you are not is what holds you back, right? So being kind to yourself, just like you would be to a friend, a child, a family member, do that for yourself, right? Embrace worry just by recognizing that you're worrying, and that's okay. And hopefully you have some time later on in the day where you could write down some of your worries. Creating a worry space is actually a really good thing, that you actually have time in your day that you could write down your worries, and they actually can become a list of things that you want to take a look at. And what are the things that you own, that you worry about? And what are the things that are outside of what you can do? And those are also important for you to think about. To quickly take a look again in the chat. All right, and let's talk a little bit again about reframing. And so if you can't address the worry in the moment, can you put it aside? And that's an important thing. So let's think about this inner dialogue. Instead of saying, I'm a student, I can't add one more thing in my day, or you say to me, it's easy for me to say because I'm beyond that I've had that student experience. And so we don't want you to add anything into your day. We want you to have it to be part of your day. So maybe what you could try is actually say to yourself, and I know this sounds silly the first couple times you do it, but it works. Say, I am feeling tense, like recognize what's going on in your body. I am feeling tense. I've got a lot of things competing for my attention right now. And maybe if I just did that breathing exercise that she talked about, just those 3 deep breaths, or just that 5-minute kind of thing, or if I set aside time for worry time when I'm feeling stressed, that I can have a better focus and get the task done, the things that I have to do now. Can I get through it and then look at what I'm truly worried about? Is there a way to do that, even if it's just the breathing exercise? And the more you do it, the faster you get to the calm. And so that's the important thing, that you actually are practicing it. So maybe an example of, you're on a team project and you're not always good on teamwork, right? You always just kind of want to do it. So if you say, if I don't take control of this project, I'm worried I'm not going to get the outcome I'm hoping for. I won't get the grade. I won't get what I need. What am I going to do if that happens? Okay, so like worst case, right? So what about if you try, I realize this is a group project, kind of bring it home, base it in reality. Each person has their part. And by focusing on things that I can control, like I can give gentle feedback, I can work as a team member, I can increase my own self-awareness right now, that I could manage the discomfort that comes up and maybe better manage the stress when it bubbles up. And if you truly are having a struggle with teamwork, is it the team, or is it what your perception is that they're not doing what you would have done? And could you actually look at it that maybe they're bringing something to the table that you did not have before? So even though it's not the way you would do it, does it at least enrich the project? And so that's what you're really hoping for. So let's think about what would make wellness the easy route. So you're thinking of your day, and you're thinking of wellness as the act of practicing, so it's active, healthy habits daily for better physical, social, and mental health outcomes. So when you think of your day, is there something easy that you could shift? And maybe it is not picking up your phone the first 5 minutes. Maybe it is increasing your water intake. All those kinds of things help. And especially water, if you've been with us on any of these monthly talks, you know that even 2% of dehydration slows down your ability to change from your amygdala to your prefrontal cortex, where that logic, reasoning, that decision making is taking place. So water can be like one of the easiest things. This can be like a freebie in bingo, right? You could do that. All right, so if we go back to Mentimeter and we take a look at maybe one thing that you could do, one sustainable action, and I'm going to go ahead and get to it first because I think I need to change to the second question. So hold on just a moment and let me get there. But the things we want to look at is feeling heard, feeling safe, being prepared, feeling supported, and feeling cared for. So what one thing could you do for yourself toward those things? And again, if you're on the phone, it's menti, menti.com. The code is 5494-0864. Otherwise, go ahead and use the QR code. I'll wait a moment, and then I'm going to switch this, and it will have the code again on the screen when I get to it. All right, And I'm going to squish the question. All right, so go ahead and put in some of your answers. And if anybody wants to unmute and talk about any resources at Rush that helps you with any of that I didn't mention, please go ahead and do that. If you need that code, it's up at the top, 5494-0864. Yes. So what will you do in order to care for the family? Because that definitely is a challenge that is always on your mind and then physically very demanding. Yes, exercise, just walking the stairs, just 3 times a week, 15 to 20 minutes of a walk really does make a difference. Being hydrated, you know, you can tell that's my favorite thing, right? Yes, definitely deep breaths, definitely deep breaths. Rephrasing things. I think sometimes when we feel ourselves getting kind of somebody hit our buttons, right? And we kind of go to all the bad things, we're not really basing ourselves in reality. And so taking those 3 deep breaths and thinking about what is truly happening and how I can manage what's truly happening in the moment really can be helpful. And you can get coaching around that. Like, why does my brain go to the worst thing? Why can't I stay here? And so those are some things, there's some tips that you can take on to be able to do that. These are all really good suggestions. And I love how exercise is in there. My hope is that you're not thinking that this is a hard thing, like, okay, I've got to get up a half hour earlier and I have to go do this kind of thing and make it hard. If you do, if you're somebody who runs, if you put your clothes out the night before, the first thing you do when you wake up is you see your clothes. And so you just get in them and go, right? Instead of go to the kitchen, go here, go there. You do a couple of things and you can kind of talk yourself out of it. So the idea is make it easy and sustainable. And that's important. Right. Prayer and meditation. I don't think we say that enough about that meditation or about the positive affirmations. Any of those kind of things can be very calming. And you can feel that if you begin your night routine with that and be able to calm yourself instead of leaving all your TV and iPad and computer and everything on until the last minute. If you start to be able to kind of wind down and think about some of the things you can do to be kind to yourself, including any meditation or any prayer that you have. Absolutely. Making the list and writing it down. Please don't forget the writing it down part. Even if you go to 3 Good Things, you can Google it. The big thing they push is you need to write it down. And so there's something connecting with that brain and the written word that makes such a difference. Okay, these are really good. So I like breathing being the second largest thing. I think that that's really good to remember to breathe, to take those breaths, the 3 deep breaths, to change that neural pathway and to be able to do it as you move through your day. So each time you do your hand hygiene, each time you change your class, go ahead and just take purposefully, intentionally 3 deep breaths. All right, so thank you for everyone. And taking a break, yeah, those, not just a break, like go for coffee kind of break, but those brain breaks are really important. I'm going to check in the chat before I go back. And yes, thank you, Denise, for responding or asking that question, and Jesse for responding. We do have a rooftop garden on the 9th floor of the tower. It should be open by now. It closes in the bad weather, like during the winter, but it is a lovely space to be able to go out. We also have a healing garden, and it's right across from JRB. So if you go east from JRB, just walk across the street, it is a beautiful healing garden that many people worked on those committees to get that done. So definitely take advantage of either of those spaces. It's really kind of a nice to do that. So you've got 2 places that you're able to go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this and be able to go back to the end of our talk. And thank you guys for adding these questions and the answers in the talk, because I think that's a really good thing that we're able to share with our community. All right, so the idea about calming does provide well-being, and you think, well, that's not a big deal. Well, no, it's not a big deal, but that's what it's all about. To be able to create well-being with something as simple as valuing yourself with a little kindness, be able to recognize when you're stressed, like, oh, I can feel it, like my shoulders have been up too long and now they're sore because I've been worried and stressed all day. Stepping back physically, take a physical step backwards, and it actually allows your visual field to open and you can look at the big picture. And I think that's a really good thing, because that again brings you to that moment of, am I thinking of all the terrible things, or is this reality? Be able to control your breathing. That hand over your heart is so important, because that does bring down the cortisol level. That is just a universal sign to your brain to calm. Be able to stay positive if you can, and maintain good intentions. And I think that's important, to not only think about what that person is going to do, but think about it in a way of, could they actually have good intentions toward what they're going to do? If you can focus on one thing at a time, you're ahead of the game. I know we talk about multitasking all the time, and we're not good at it because our brain does a lot of things, but can only truly focus on one thing. And so we want to be able to do that thing. So if you do something like time boxing, where you set a timer and for 20 minutes you work on something as hard as you can, and at the end of the 20 minutes, you look to see what you did. Do you want to continue on that, or do you need a break and come back? But to be able to set that timer and be able to focus on one thing, you'll find yourself way more productive than if you try to do a lot of different things. And I know that we all do that. We all multitask. And so maybe just try that a little bit. Try that brain break, and think about getting a mentor or a wellness advocate, because you want to practice anything that's difficult. And if getting calm is difficult, that's a good thing to practice. But recognizing your stress is probably the biggest thing that you need to do. So once you recognize and acknowledge that you're stressed, that's great. And you can start learning how to disconnect, especially if you're struggling with a task. That means your brain just needs a break. You know, not going to the snack cabinet, but just walking away, getting some water, doing something different for a few minutes, and then being able to come back. And those are really helpful things that you can do for yourself. I do believe that we are all resilient. We all have resiliency, and we are courageous, but sometimes we just need a little boost, a little tool, some tools, some support that help us access what we already have inside us. And so the Global Wellness Institute talks about wellness as the active pursuit of activities, choices, and lifestyles that are including the practice of gratitude that leads us to a state of holistic health. And that's important that they put that whole thing about including being kind. And so I think those are very important things. All right, so we've got a lot of things that we talk about. And so I want to be able to give you this information about where you can come to enjoy some of the things that happen within the Center for Clinical Wellness. And it's really a key here, because you're working on things, big exams, presentations, overwhelming, especially if you are going on to a graduate or going on to a career and you're not quite sure where you're going to go with that. And so to be able to kind of calm your brain or focus or be able to kind of organize things, those are skills that you can work on and get better at, but sometimes you need a coach. And so maybe you want to investigate the Center for Clinical Wellness. And it's right in the Triangle office building, right across the street. It's a 7-minute walk, but it's also online. There's a lot of resources online. If you were to come to the space, Donor Dollars built a beautiful space for us. It's very small, but very efficient. Everything is about wellness when you come. And so you're able to take advantage of just physically being in that space. The other thing you want to do is to be able to go online. So if you go to insiderush.edu/wellness, you're going to get to our website. And on the website, there's many things on there, including the wellness newsletter, any of the tools for students, events coming up, but also is appointment scheduling. So you actually do your own scheduling, so that one of the extra things about confidentiality is that you manage your schedule. And I think that's really a great thing. You can get appointments from 7 to 7, Monday through Friday, and it can be video as well. So especially if you're working 12 hours and going to school, that might be a very important thing. And you want to take a look at the fact that there are well-being coaches, mini wellness retreats, unlimited sessions, and there is no fee and there is no limit for students and employees. And so kind of take that out of the reason why you wouldn't go. Think about why you could go. And you can actually use the QR code on here also if you want to get to the wellness website, but you just need to go to Inside Rush/wellness and you'll be able to get to that. All right, around confidentiality, I know some people think, well, I don't want anybody knowing I'm going there. And I've actually had the opposite happen. I've actually had people come up to me to say, I've been going there and I really have enjoyed it and appreciated what I've done differently since I've been going there. But if you're worried about confidentiality, the way that the facility was designed, the way the documentation is done, the way the scheduling is done is all there for your confidentiality and your privacy. So that's an important thing that is there for you. What I've been talking about is on the left side of your screen, the 7 to 7, Monday to Friday, online scheduling, unlimited free sessions for the Rush community. Over on the right side, if you do want to go outside Rush, but still have it part of your benefits, you would use ComPsych. They're available 24/7. You can catch them on the website or you can call them. What's different is they do 5 free sessions and then refer you. The unique part is that it's available to your immediate family and significant others. And so that's kind of a cool thing that you'd be able to assist with your family as well, especially for some of you who are really challenged in the middle of that sandwich generation thing. If you feel that things are not okay, whether it's you or a colleague, you are able to talk to a psychotherapist within 60 minutes by using this pager, the 852323. So usually it's probably about 10-15 minutes in reality. But if you page, somebody will respond within 60 minutes. It will be one of our psychotherapists. They carry the pager 24/7, and that they'll help you in the moment. And then they'll help you set up things that if you want to do things in the future that you need assistance with, they're able to help you as well. So if you're feeling uncertain, don't wait. Just call and ask, is this something I should be worried about? Is this something I can get some support around? And that's really nice, just to dabble a little bit in what's there to help you. You might have seen these flyers around. Again, QR codes are really great. We want you to be able to kind of follow this algorithm if you are with somebody that is having a challenge, and especially if there is any danger, you're going to call 911. If you need it now, you're going to call the Wellness Assistance Program. If you're overwhelmed, not sure what to do, you're going to call the 852323. And if you just want somebody to come to your group or to talk to a department or a unit, again, come on to the wellness website. You'll see some of these things that are on there, just very easy clicks on the website. One of the things I want to point out is the well-being index. And that's kind of a cool thing that when you go on that, you're able to kind of assess your own well-being and you get a score right away. And they compare you to being in the community, in the geographic area, kind of tell you how you're doing. And then also they'll remind you on a certain basis, you agree like a week or a month. And after you've done it 3 times, it'll give you some ideas of maybe this area started to drop a little bit. Maybe you want to look at this. And so it's just kind of nice to have someone else or something else watching out for you. So take a look at that. Use the invitation code RUSH if it asks for that. But you can again get this on the website. Also, the other thing we mentioned was mental health first aid. If you would like to be one of those who attend that, to be a mental health first aider, please go on the website and sign up for that, the insiderush.rush.edu/wellness, to be able to learn how to do this, to become a mental health first aider. Something that's new, offered to physicians and nurses, is Rush Wellness Coaching. And again, that's on the website, and you're able to take advantage of this coaching. And these are trained coaches that will work with you, especially as you're looking at your performance and your career and what you want to do with life. That's kind of a good thing, right? So every time we do our talk, we talk about the different pillars of well-being. And my hope is that you found something, some tip, something that worked for you in this one, talking about your psychosocial wellness. If you can do nothing else but consider some of the ways to make it better for you to sleep by limiting or giving yourself a bedtime routine, thinking about a little bit more exercise, especially as the days are getting nicer, just to be outside and breathe is great. Thinking about water, if not making your lunch ahead of time, is great for nutrition. And then just keep doing it each time, and you are going to build some really good neural pathways. All right, I'm going to check the chat one more time. See if we missed anything. Oh, yes, for positive affirmations, 3 good things. And oh, thank you. Thank you. Already got the response there. Yes, 3goodthings.org. If you just Google 3 good things, and it's really great because they have a very nice website, and they're able to share a little bit more about that. In the tower, the meditative space is on 4. It's right by the entrance for employees to go up into the tower elevators. And it's by the patient and family resource area, I think right nearby. Right. All right. I want to thank everybody who joined and participated. This was really great to get your questions and to see the community answering. That was wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and thank you so much for being here. If just so you know, it's going to be done again next week at 6 o'clock in the evening. And if not this next week, we'll see you next month. All right. Be well.